Hello and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, where we round up all the gaming and PlayStation news for your listening and viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Plays Games and up in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. We've got a great show lined up for you this week where we'll be discussing Spider-Man 2, getting a release date, potentially, Lego teaming up with 2K, and Crash Team Rumble coming out in June. And joining me in this is none other than Mr. Rob.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, Rob?
I'm doing very well indeed. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I did sleep in this morning because I think daylight savings messed us both up.
Yeah, we were talking about this pre-show. We were both gaming late into the night and didn't realise we'd lost an hour somehow.
Yeah, I genuinely, until Rob mentioned it to me this morning, I was sat there playing Hogwarts Legacy last night, and looked at the clock and was like, oh, it's about 3:30, I should probably go to bed. I didn't even realise that just an hour of my life had just been taken from me for no reason.
Yeah, I had the same. But yeah, I was aware of it, and then just soldiered on to about 3:30 anyway.
Yeah. So you've been playing
typewriters.
So we might as well talk about it now. What you've been playing, Rob?
Resident Evil non-stop since Friday. I don't have enough good things to say about this game. Even someone who's relatively familiar with number 4, they're throwing lots of curveballs for me. So you start different stages in different areas and people do different things. So yeah, loving it and highly recommend anybody who's familiar with it or is new to the franchise, just go buy it. That's all I've got on that.
Awesome. For me, I have actually rolled credits on Hogwarts Legacy finally.
At 3:30 in the morning.
It was earlier than that. I rolled credits. I wasn't far off. I only had 1 or 2 main story missions to go after for last week, and I think I am going to go get the platinum. I'm not that far off actually. I've got one area on the map to actually just clean up the collectibles on. Then I've got to do up to the map room and the 3 other houses that I didn't play with, which that's going to be the biggest time sink, to be honest. But I think once I've done one of them, I'm going to just do all 3 back to back, and I think I'll speed up each time.
Yeah,
and
I do find the game seems pretty good at kind of not forcing, but kind of making sure you're kind of doing all the different things that is all the systems that are in the game for an achievement perspective. So you have to do your herbology and you have to do your it's to a point.
It's in battle. It comes up with almost like an achievement for that battle. It's use repulsor on this type of enemy when you're fighting that type of enemy. And that counts towards your collectible. So it does stuff like that. It'll come going, oh, you use a mandrake against this enemy. It's okay, I'll use it, and then you'll get that ticked off. So it encourages you to do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's quite good game design. For their credit. Now that you're at the end, basically you have those credits. Mm-hmm. What score of 10 would you give it based on the hours you've put in?
I'm about 60 hours in. Mm-hmm. I'd say it's a high 8.
Okay.
Maybe ticking in, and I want to give it a 9 because of how much I've enjoyed the game. But I think if I'm looking at this purely objectively, I think it's an 8.
I think I broadly agree with you.
Yeah.
I almost feel how can I say that? The world itself is fantastic, but the more you play it, the more you do see some not a lack of depth, but just places where
the only
it's not there.
The only thing that's really holding me off and just going it's a 9 is it kind of feels like a last generation game. It feels more like a PS4 game rather than a PS5 game.
Yeah, I think it's
in some of design choices and stuff. It's not a bad thing, but it just hasn't. It's not a step up in quality from the previous generation. It's made a solid game. If this came out mid PS4, this would definitely be a 9. Mm-hmm. But with a generational shift, there's a change in perspective and stuff. But Yeah, for me personally, it's a 9. But if you ask me, if I was to review it, it'd be an 8.
Yeah, and I think that's fair because it is a first effort. You know, it's a really solid start to the franchise.
We were saying that before we started recording that Hogwarts Legacy 2. What first of all needs to happen? WB just say you're working on it now, and then we can all shut up.
Yeah,
and use this as a base. A lot of the design choices, a lot of the story. The story is fantastic. A lot of that world building they've already done. So then they can really start thinking in about polishing the game and like pushing it to the next level.
Yeah. Happy to see you enjoying it, and more importantly, you've got like 60 hours of entertainment out of it, which more justifies the investment. Yeah,
it's completely worth the purchase if you're a Harry Potter fan. To be honest, even if you're not a Harry Potter fan and you just want a solid like action RPG. Although I do think Harry Potter fans will get a lot more out of it just from the nature of the way the combat works and the lore and the world building. But yeah.
Oh yeah, naturally. But
yeah, hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll have that platinum and I'll be playing Octopath.
One could hope, Richie, every single week you make the Octopath promise.
Well, it's because I don't tend not to do that much gaming during the week. I'll only play like an hour here and there, so it tends to get like Friday, Saturday evening. That's where right now I can really make a decent dent and stuff. I've said before the way I tend to play games in like almost like batches where I'll sit down and go, right, for the next 8 hours, this is what I'm doing. Where I'm pretty bad at just like chipping away with like 1 or 2 hours here and there.
Okay.
But before going further, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of our great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as XPass. So every single Monday, we break down all the Xbox news for you happening. And on Microsoft's side, we've got a great show lined up for you yesterday, actually. So make sure you check that out. Chris did, which we're going to talk about in a bit, an unboxing of the Amazon Luna controller. And also, he did a first look at Tchia, which we're going to talk about as one of our news stories today. So Luna, Rob. Luna's finally come to the UK.
It was quite unexpected, right? Like,
you're telling me?
I was just kind of like, going about would have been Friday or was Thursday, whichever day it was. I was just kind of going about my day, and then suddenly kind of, oh, by the way, Luna's now here. And then the guys from the Luna Twitter were just kind of like talking to us, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the Luna social team, they've always been fairly awesome, to be honest. They've always interacted with us. Like,
yeah.
Have you had a chance to jump in with anything on Amazon Luna yet?
Honestly, I haven't, because it came out of nowhere, and I was like, obviously, as we say, we all kind of have commitments during the week, and Resident Evil's taken up my weekend commitment, so I really haven't. But have you had yourself?
I jumped in. I booted up my old Immortals Phoenix Rising save, which I played on Stadia. It was just a game I saw on my live and went, I'll jump in that. I only played for about 10-15 minutes. I wanted to get hands on just to see how it feels, and yeah, it's like Stadia.
Which is high praise, by the way.
That is high praise. Yeah, like Stadia was always for me very solid. It's not quite as good as playing in local hardware, especially. I think I talked about this on the stream on our Resident Evil stream that happened on Friday night. You can tell after playing like natively on my PlayStation for quite a bit, or an occasion dropping into my Xbox, that when it's streaming, you see that kind of you can see the compression almost in the video 100%. Stream, especially in like dark scenes where like the blacks just feel a bit crushed a bit more. But it's 100% playable. It feels fine. But if you're into cloud gaming, you're not going to get the absolute peak in visual fidelity. It's more for me. It's like, how does it feel to play? And it feels absolutely fine. The controller's nice.
Yeah, I think that's the point as well around expectations, where it's it's the same with like Netflix, like in the early days and kind of streaming services. You know the best way to view media is like Blu-ray disc or whatever.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But for 99, 95, 99% of the audience, that kind of casual like level is enough. It doesn't need to be this extra kind of like audiophile or cinephile or kind of, I don't know, gamophile type of level, right?
If you think of it this way, there is no hardware you need to buy. It's the same argument I've always made for Stadia. There's no hardware that you need to buy.
Yeah.
You can buy a controller, but I actually tried playing Luna using my Stadia controller, my Wasabi one, and it works.
Yeah. And bear in mind the amount of people who have kind of Prime membership now.
Yeah.
Which I believe Luna is bundled in with, right? That's across all territories.
Luna has it's kind of weird. It has a couple different SKUs almost, different they call them channels, where the Amazon Prime is a channel. So if you've got Prime, you've got Luna Prime, you've got that channel and everything that's in it, which there isn't a huge number of games in there. They've got Luna Plus, which is kind of their main channel. Then
Gotcha,
Ubisoft
okay.
Plus is one. I think they've got a few other stuff. I don't have them like in front of me, and I'm still actually figuring out my way around that ecosystem. But yeah,
Gotcha, okay.
so if you got Amazon Prime, but then even if you don't, we are talking about paying for games. So there's always going to be a cost in gaming. Gaming isn't free, and to be honest, shouldn't be free.
Yeah, completely fair. But I think just with everyone's used to like subscribing to Amazon Prime, like I've had it and like it just as much as I don't like to use it, it does become part of like your natural kind of buying habit. And to have such like an easy link into gaming from that central ecosystem, which does work really well, and like as much as like people have things to say about like against Amazon as a company, like they do make really good, stable, reliable product. Like
this is the thing. Like Amazon as a company, there's question marks over a lot of the business practices. There's a lot of reports come out about things like the way they treat the staff and contractors and all that sort of stuff. We all know that, and yet we still use them.
Yeah, and we all kind of forgive ourselves for doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's elements of Amazon that are really good. So it's you have to weigh that sort of stuff up yourself, and like, how do you sleep at night? And the answer is you don't. You stay up late playing Hogwarts Legacy or Resident Evil.
Yeah, basically yes.
Yeah.
Looping back to Luna, I'm going to check it out. Hopefully, like this week coming up. The good thing is I can do it on the move, which is nice for me. Which is such a rare like I think I haven't really had since Stadia, because like as much as I love Xbox Game Pass, the kind of like the cloud streaming isn't quite there yet as a viable way to play. But from first impressions, it seemed like Luna's picking up where Stadia left off in terms of quality.
Yeah, the only thing that I don't really like about Amazon Luna is the subscription only model. There isn't a dedicated storefront, so you can't just go in and buy a game. And part of the issue is games do get removed. We've talked about that before, probably on CloudQuest. Games do get removed from Amazon Luna, and once they're being removed, that's it. You no longer have access to it. End of story.
Yeah, and you literally can't even buy it either.
Yeah, where with Game Pass, if a game gets removed from Game Pass, because that does happen, it's still on the Xbox storefront. You can then just go, okay, you know what? I've had this as part of my subscription. I'm about 30 hours in. I've got about another maybe 20 hours to go or something. I'm just going to drop the money for the game.
Yeah.
You can make that decision.
You have to think that's in the pipeline relatively soon, right? Considering how well Amazon can do it with kind of film and music media.
I hope so, but I think the idea was very much to get you onto like paying for subscription services, and just because how familiar people are with paying subscription services, and how much people forget about subscription services that they're paying for.
Like talking Prime, I'm so bad at like subscribing to like one of like the individual channels they have on Amazon Prime, where it's like I think 1 year like I subscribed to Shudder, which is their kind of horror thing for like £1 on Halloween. And then I completely forgot about it for like 6 months. And there's like this really niche horror channel which I've been paying for. And then again, I've done it for like Paramount when I kind of looped into it. It happens all the fucking time.
Yeah, that's what they're counting on. That's how they're gonna make. That's how they'll make the money by people not actually. It's like almost like similar to we need to a gym, where they want lots of members, but they don't want the members to actually go.
Yeah, it's like if everybody who has it used it, they'd be fucked. Like, yeah, absolutely.
But let's move on. Rob, would you like to introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation perusing points, aka the news?
The news, and as always, our news is brought to you by our Helix Heroes. You guys are awesome, and you can join for as little as 99p over on our YouTube channel. So, first news story of the week. We finally get a date for Spider-Man 2. Kind of.
With a caveat, yeah, that's very important to add.
Yeah, so this is the news that Insomniac Spider-Man 2's voice actor, Tony Todd, who is going to be playing Venom in the upcoming sequel, which, although it's Spider-Man 2, it's technically a sequel to 2 Spider-Man games. Spider-Man logic.
Yeah, let's not try to unravel the Spider-Verse because we'll all go insane.
Yeah. So this is kind of, if you look at Spider-Man as a whole, this is probably the maybe 5th or 6th Spider-Man 2, although this is the 3rd Spider-Man in this current series of games made by Insomniac. Anyway, Tony Todd has announced, probably accidentally, that the game will be coming in September.
Yeah, I feel like he, the voice actor for Venom, right? This is
yes, yeah, he plays Venom.
Yeah, I almost feel like he got a few calls, like, or maybe even like a WhatsApp after he said this, and was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, this is like this is outside of your remit of kind of what we hired you for." But if he's right, that's nice. Like, what, 6 months now? That's going to be a nice little kind of autumn treat for us. Yeah.
The tweet has since been deleted, so I'm guessing he's been in trouble. I think he was just responding to a fan asking about it, like saying, "Can't come quick enough. Looks like September. Massive publicity coming in August. Commercials start dropping in August. So I'm told. Hold on to your ... and hold breath. Going to be necessary." So I think this is like, he's probably just been, I'm guessing he's probably just recently been briefed on what like his commitments to kind of like the publicity is going to be. And with it all coming in August, like if they do a big public push in August, this might be him assuming September based on the information he's got. Like,
yeah, and as bear in mind, like, he's probably not in like the inner circles of exact kind of time frames, how the game's coming along from a development perspective. Obviously it's a big indication, but let's not get angry if it does shift around.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take this as gospel. We know how much games get delayed nowadays, and I'm always kind of in the camp when it comes to delays. I'd rather a game be delayed. If the developers need more time to make the game good without overexerting themselves, take your time.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. Not like, I'd much rather wait another month for a game than a team of, I don't know, however many dozen people have no life for that like said month to get it out on time. Now, the one thing interesting in September is that it does hit Starfield territory in terms of release windows. Now, it
does. However, we should point out that both of these games are platform exclusives.
True, that's a good point.
2 different platforms as well.
Yeah. Now, for that kind of like Venn diagram in the middle, Starfield's going to be the one losing out here, right?
I don't know, actually, because the Venn diagram in the middle, so the Venn diagram who could be affected by these 2 games coming at the same time are basically people who have PlayStations and Xboxes. It's basically me, it's you, it's Chris. It's the more hardcore gamers. maybe families who've got one kid at PlayStation, one kid an Xbox, and they usually fight over which one's better. That kind of stuff. Spider-Man 2 is going to sell absolute tons, and I think it's got a bigger mass market appeal than Starfield. Starfield is more of a video gamer's game, if that makes sense, where Spider-Man 2 is got that general people who wouldn't consider themselves a gamer, who just have a PlayStation in the living room for something like FIFA, probably might be interested in Starfield, but will probably pick up Spider-Man 2. And then you've got, for me, I'm buying this game day one. I'm not buying Starfield day one, but I have it on Game Pass.
I'm going to say you don't need to buy the Starfield day one.
But if I didn't have it on Game Pass, I'd be going for Spider-Man over Starfield.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's no argument against that. You have like a new IP which is great, but is unproven, with a company that's a bit kind of like ropey at the moment against what should be a surefire hit in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I think Bethesda have been just very good. They've been good, fairly good, apart from maybe Fallout 76 was a bit of a miss, but I think that's the only thing where you could say it's actually been a miss. They just haven't really wowed us in a while.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, in terms of winning or losing...
That's where the pressure's on Starfield to do that.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, hopefully in autumn we have some Spider-Man goodness, because it's been a while since I've been able to jump into that. One thing I will say is I got a free Spider-Man code for PC. God, that game looks beautiful on when you put some power behind it.
That game looks beautiful on PS4.
Oh yeah.
Not even PS4 Pro, like base PS4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but holy shit, it's such a beautiful game.
I think going back to when we were talking about Hogwarts Legacy, how it feels like more of a PS4 game, you just remind me, Miles Morales feels so much like a PS5 game when you play that on PS5.
Yeah.
So that's WB, that's what you want to look at. You want to look at some games like Miles Morales. Like, these are the sort of games I've kind of, like, you go, oh crap, this is good.
Yeah, this is like the standard, and it's... Oh, yeah. God, the more I talk about it, the more I'm looking forward to this game now.
Come in September.
Yeah.
It's going to be busy, yeah. We've got to get just another potentially 6 months. But, I mean, we have, Insomniac did confirm last year that they're targeting fall 2023. Which makes sense as probably one of the biggest video game releases of the year, if not the biggest, to get out a couple of months before Christmas. Because this is where you're going to walk into every single shop that sells video games, and this game is going to be bundled in with PS5s.
Oh yeah, it's going to be bundled in. It's going to be on every single end of aisle display. It's going to be PlayStation for 6 to 12 months. Yeah,
and if it is September, maybe in a couple of months, maybe I could see maybe a new trailer dropping like in the summer around about E3. I know it's only not going to be at E3, but around the E3 period, Summer Games Fest, whatever is going on there, and then probably August. Yeah, let's go hard on the marketing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to soak up every single thing I can.
Oh god, yeah, this is going to be so good. We might have to do a playthrough of Miles Morales or the first Spider-Man on stream or something.
Yeah, that might be a good shout.
Yeah, or even just a quote-unquote first look of them. Because when them games came out, we weren't covering PlayStation.
Yeah, maybe true. Maybe we call it something else, like retro. No, I'm not thinking of the name right now.
Yeah, we're not. But yeah. Let us know in the comments if you are interested in this game, which, if you're listening to a PlayStation podcast, I think you are.
And if you are interested, get off.
No, say I want the views.
No, leave right now.
Don't listen to Rob. This is why he's the chaotic neutral. He's telling our listeners to go away.
We don't want your kind on this show.
Yes, we don't want you. Apparently, Rob doesn't want your kindness.
No, you're kind.
You're kind, yes. Only 5 only Spider-Man 2 fans are allowed to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is your favourite? That's another thing for the comments. Which is your favourite Spider-Man 2?
It has to be Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2, right?
I think you might be right.
It has to be.
Tom Holland's was pretty good, but wasn't quite as good as Homecoming.
It was a bit inconsequential, Tom Holland's one, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was... I can't remember it, actually.
It was...
it's Mysterio, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, no, that was really good.
It was, but it didn't really add much.
Yeah.
No, I guess it did, actually, because they had the whole him turn into, like, the Tony Stark type of figure.
Yeah, it was dealing with the aftermath of Endgame.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
crazy enough, it's still the weakest of the three Spider-Mans. Even though it's so good, it is the weakest of the three, like of the Tom Holland Spider-Mans. I
know Tom Holland Spider-Man's so... Spider-Man's on a roll. Like, Spider-Man's has always been on the roll. It's been one of the most marketable IP ever. Like, pretty much for our entire lives. There's a reason why they kept trying... This is the third... We're talking about the third Spider-Man film franchise in our lifetimes. Like...
Yeah, and then there's Venom just limping along somewhere as well. Yeah.
But then you've also got Into the Spider-Verse, which is probably the best Spider-Man movie, full stop.
And I'd argue one of the best animations for the...
Okay, yeah. But let's move on from Spider-Man, because we could literally just probably do an entire Spider-Man podcast if we wanted to. Horizon Burning Shores, we have a date and a price. So it will be out in April 19th for £15.99 or $19.99, whichever you prefer.
So I'm kind of surprised by this price, I have to say. I'm not like the biggest kind of Horizon player, but I do know that the was the first DLC was fairly expansive, and if this is anything like that, then £16 call it is pretty good value, especially seeing as though game like everything else has went up. Like £16 is a bit inconsequential in terms of money in the gaming sphere anyway.
I'm not sure what to expect from this, because the price seems, as you said, very reasonable for DLC. But like, how big is this DLC? Because it's been over a year since the initial game came out. I know that there's like Call of the Mountains also dropped in the time, which I'm not sure if that was the same team, different team, or had some supervision, whatever has gone on there. But Guerrilla have effectively had a year since the first game out for the DLC to come out. So you think it has to be something fairly substantial. It can't just be like, here's a couple of hours.
Yeah, but then they haven't really been doing like a massive push on it, have they? So maybe they are trying to like scale the size of the project back a bit. But I was honestly expecting kind of like a £30 type of mark with which kind of firmly indicates how big like content you're getting. It's really hard to tell when it's this price.
I wonder if the price is also actually reflecting like the time period since the game dropped as well. Would this have been, if this came out last summer, would this have been £30 at that point? But now they've done like the cost benefit analysis where actually it's been so long since people played the game. Are people like clamoring for the DLC right now, so far removed from the game?
Yeah, maybe the cost.
If we drop the price, it becomes more enticing.
Yeah, the value of getting them playing Horizon again is higher than, I don't know, like an extra £5 per sale or something. I don't know.
I mean, I know for me, if I was like wanted to play Horizon right now and I was looking at the say a £30 price point, I'd probably go, I'll just play Forbidden West again. I'll just start that game again rather than dropping £30 on DLC to the game. In fact, if I wanted to play this DLC, I probably would want to start Forbidden West again.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm not a Horizon player, so it's a no purchase for me. But is this kind of tempting you for the price?
I think the price is good depending on how much game there is there. If we're assuming this maybe like a 10-hour DLC or something, I think that's probably a good price. It's not tempting me though, but I tend not to go back for DLC. And as I've said before with Horizon, I've got the Platinum and Forbidden West, but there's entire parts of that map I just didn't even really go to. I've still got Fog of War on the map.
Right, okay.
So there's still more to do in that game if I wanted more Horizon.
Yeah, so if you do want more Horizon, you go back to old DLC as opposed to buying new.
And I didn't play the first game's DLC either. I have it, but I didn't play it. So it's just... I restarted. My intention was to, on the run up to Forbidden West, was to play Zero Dawn. I was trying to remember the name of the Horizon Zero Dawn and the DLC at that time. Then I just never did. Other things just took my interest away. So it's a no from me, but if there's a decent amount of game there, I think it's a decent price. And
yeah. I can imagine Chris picking this up fairly.
Yeah, Chris is more likely to play
easily.
this than me.
Yeah.
Talking about Chris, onto our next story. Chris did a first look at Tchia. So Tchia is kind of PlayStation exclusive, but they have talked about. In fact, I'll straight up read the tweet. Someone asked them on Twitter, "Are you planning on releasing it on Xbox and Nintendo Switch or even Steam?" Which the Tchia devs, Awakeb, responded saying, very much focusing on PS and EGS at launch, but excited to make the game as accessible as possible in the long run. So stay tuned. I lost the ability to read during that. Yeah, so it's not. So I think it's one of them. It's not necessarily a PlayStation exclusive. It's just not on other platforms.
Yeah, I think it went from very low expectations to no expectations, and then obviously it had like great response, and rightly so from what I've seen of the game. And then they're thinking, oh, okay, like this has demand, let's get it on other platforms. So it's not necessarily that this is a PlayStation exclusive, it's just we didn't think to make it for other platforms yet.
So this is one that's been on my and Chris's radar for quite a while, because once upon a time this was going to be a Stadia exclusive.
Imagine what could have been.
Yeah. And then obviously Stadia did the Stadia thing, and then Sony kind of stepped in to help them out, which is seemingly without actually taking the exclusivity, or at least maybe the timed exclusivity or something. But yeah, it looks really cool, to be honest.
Yeah, like these types of stories always make me a bit depressed, because imagine what could have been with like a string of like indie hits on Stadia.
Well, that's the story of Stadia, is like what could have been. Because like I think most people who played it who weren't just like, oh my god, cloud gaming's terrible, like that toxicity around cloud gaming. Mm-hmm. People who like give it an honest try and actually thought about it, and not just like, well, this doesn't look as good as my 4090. like removing them people, most people went, Stadia's actually pretty damn impressive, but never lived up to what it could have been. And they could have had Call of Duty, like
they could have, yeah. Now the great thing about this, like Tchia doing really well, is that like there's homes for titles like this, because this could have very easily not been made like 5-10 years ago. So it's really nice to see these kind of indie games getting the due they deserve, and not just being banished to like the like that dodgy section on Steam.
Yeah, just not just get lost in the mix, like. And this is why I do like to like occasionally shine a spotlight on like on indie devs occasionally. It's something we did a lot during the Stadia years, admittedly out of like necessity, because it wasn't getting much, but to have like when something like Tchia is like, it looks really cool. It's got quite a novel concept of how they kind of almost possess the creatures in the world, which is I mean, other games have done stuff like it, but it looks beautiful as well. And I think there's only like 12 devs or something, 12 people in the development team. It's quite a small it's a small team who've worked on like what seems to be a very polished game. Like,
you see this lots, don't you, where like you see like either like a one-person dev team or like a handful of devs like make something which just transcends like what should be achievable with a few people. Like you've got like Valheim, I think was what 2 or 3 people initially.
yeah,
You've got stuff like Mount and Blade, which like Mount Blade started off as one person doing the entire game, and then it obviously blew up and exploded from there. And again, like it's just you forget kind of we always like look in the context of like AAA titles and like the hundreds and hundreds of people that have worked on them, but like a few people with like a really solid ambition and a really like good skill set can make some wonderful things.
yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the reviews at the moment. It's currently on PS5 sitting at a Metascore of 78, user score of 7.2. But there is some 9s and 10s in that mix. So it seems to be either it's landed for people or it's not. It's either it's, you know what, it's a decent game, or it's like, this is amazing. Like, I mean, reading part of the Gaming Bible review, we all get so bogged down by problems both big and small in our loud, confusing world, but Tchia reminded me that that doesn't have to be the case. When Tchia would get out a ukulele to play along with friends, family, or during village ceremonies, prompting me to play along as a form of minigame, the game would remind me that it didn't matter if I missed a note, or even partook at all. The joy lies in listening or having a go, not in seeking perfection. What Tchia discovers on her journey wouldn't be possible without the kindness of strangers and friends. Tchia is also a girl with a powerful gift, but this is a game that shows you what happens when you make such a gift for good, and what can befall you if you only seek power. And they've given it like a 90. It seems like one of them like almost pulling at the heartstrings of the reviewer there. Like,
yeah, definitely. Like that it felt like he was gonna like quit his job and then pursue quieter existence. That
was Kate Harold from Gaming Bible. It's like she's given it a 90 out of 100. So yeah, I think it's. I mean, check out our first look. Chris did it. I'd like to actually. It's a shame that Chris is still on maternity leave, because it would have been nice to have him like get his further impressions. Which I definitely probably should have asked him before the show. So, Chris, let us know your impressions of the game in the comments. I know you're listening to this. Well, let's move on. You like Lego, don't you, Rob?
I do. Who doesn't like Lego?
I don't know. Like, I don't like the price of Lego, but other than that, Lego's awesome.
I don't like the price of anything at the moment.
No, but Lego is notorious.
Except for the Horizon DLC, which is good.
Yeah, Horizon DLC, decent price. Game Pass, decent price. Lego and everything else, terrible price. But that's not what the story is. That's a weird segue. So the story is the building blocks of a AAA partnership between Lego and 2K. And they've announced Lego 2K Drive, which looks to be like a kart racer. So first of all, Rob, why do 2K have to put 2K in every single game they make?
I don't know. 2K do lots of stupid stuff. Yeah. It's just their weirdness, I think.
It's the video game equivalent of Jason Derulo singing his name in every single song.
Yeah, or it's like, do you like when you see those bands and it's like, oh, like the Richie Chapman band, and you're like, that's fine to do it, but also who the fuck is Richie Chapman? Like, to be elevated outside of the band.
I mean, I've kind of just answered my own question, like with Jason Derulo. The reason he does it is because people then remember. It sticks in the mind, but it's like, oh, come on, 2K. Anyway, it's a weird thing to pick up on. It's just like, you know, one of them things that you shouldn't give a damn about, but does actually slightly annoy you.
It does, yeah, because it ruins box art, I think.
But yeah, so Lego, weird rant aside, Lego 2K Drive has been announced. So it's a Lego kart racer, effectively.
It looks to be open world as well.
Yep.
That's what I'm seeing. Funnily enough, the last open world racing game I played was Need for Speed Underground 2, and that was probably my favourite racing game of all time.
Yeah.
So if there was anything that gets me back into racing games, it will probably be this.
I'd imagine this is a very different game to Need for Speed Underground 2.
I mean, I'd hope so.
Yeah. I mean, they seem to be excited by, like, well, it seems to have all that, like, kind of Lego charm, like, it's definitely got the Lego aesthetic, but kind of the personality that kind of got attached to Lego with, like, the Lego movie.
Yeah. Like, it's really strange because you don't know how these games are going to kind of perform from a driving perspective or, like, any kind of real core gameplay. Like, you know there's going to be kind of, you find some bricks and you can build this car and it changes and change that. But it's all going to kind of rest on how well that's implemented. And at this point, you just don't really know, do you?
No, it's one of them. It looks to be ticking all the boxes from what you'd want from, like, a Lego racing game. I'm calling it a kart racer, but I don't necessarily know it is. I think I'm calling it a kart racer because it's got, like, some of the typical tropes of things like power-ups and stuff that you don't typically get in, like, arcade or simulation races. But it might scare... And the thing is, these kind of things, like, just because something is a kart racer doesn't mean it has to be basically a remake of Mario Kart. It can be something closer to a Need for Speed or Forza or something.
Yeah, definitely. I think we just need more information on this one, don't we? A gameplay demo's going to make or break this game, I think.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, with how it looks, it's probably going to sell tons to the younger audience.
I feel like it's going to be one of those games which is like, do you only get like a 3-game bundle at like a game shop or something? I feel like this feels like the third game in that bundle type of... It's like an easy game to put in and not cause offence.
You know what? I talked about how Spider-Man's going to be bundled in with loads of consoles, like, over Christmas. But if sometimes, you know, and you get, like, almost like a 2-game bundle. I think I got, when I got my PS4, I got Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and, what was it? Mad Max was... Like, that was like a 2-game bundle. No, actually, no, it was a 3-game bundle because I got FIFA in there as well. So I was like, I feel like Mad Max is like the third game in that.
Yeah, like third game of a bundle is definitely like a category of game, which the more you think about it, the more you can identify different titles. Like Evil Within was one. But anyway, get sidetracked.
But I mean, if you were a parent and it was getting close to Christmas and we don't... Do we know when this is out? I don't think we have a date yet.
No, they've just announced the partnership, haven't they? This year, though, so 2023.
Oh, yeah, we have it. It's May 19th, 2023. But if you were like if you were a parent and it's Christmas and you're about to buy a PlayStation 5 for little Timmy, and you got a bundle of Spider-Man 2 and Lego 2K Drive, you'd be pretty chuffed with that.
Yeah. And as a parent, it's something that, like, if you get this bundle, you can't fuck up with, like, Spider-Man and Lego.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be some, like, gory prostitute murdering scene, which, you know, scars Timmy for life is... I
mean, it has zombies, though. Yeah, I know.
Those are not prostitutes.
But, I mean, it's going to sound weird saying this in the PlayStation podcast, but if I was buying a console for little Timmy, I think I would go Xbox and just get Game Pass, because then you don't have to worry, because gaming is so expensive. Mm-hmm. And chances are little Timmy's just going to sit there and play Fortnite anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've got the same mood.
Yeah, get Series S, or I might, if it was my only console, I might have gone Series X, so I can play as well. But I'm just going to get Game Pass and go, there you go, Timmy, you can have all these games.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to worry about every bloody day asking for a new game. Then to sit there and play Fortnite.
If Timmy was my first child, I'd get Series X. But then, like, if it's like...
The second kid or the third kid.
Second or third, like...
The second kid gets a Series S. The third kid gets a SNES. In fact, no, the third kid doesn't get a SNES, it gets a PS3.
Yes. The 40 gig version, PS3 as well.
Yeah. The fourth kid just gets a stick. There you go. Go hit something with that.
Yeah, go hit one of the bigger kids and steal their console.
Yeah, I can only afford so many consoles. You now need to fight for your own. But yeah, this has been a weird segment of this show. Oh, I need more coffee.
Let's loop it back around. It is something normal.
Yeah. So anything more to say about the Lego 2K Drive before we move on?
No, I need to see gameplay.
Yeah, I need more gameplay, and I think a demo would be good. And if this comes to PS Plus, even better. I think this would do really well on like PS Plus or Game Pass, because I'm not going to buy this game. But if it came to PS Plus or Game Pass, we will almost certainly be doing a stream on it.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, moving on now to another game that I'm probably not going to buy, but again, I think would be great on PS Plus or Game Pass, and that is Crash Team Rumble. So we're starting to get more information, but I'm still not 100% on what this game is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair, I think. It's really difficult because, this is going to sound sacrilegious, but in lots of ways, it looks like a borderline free-to-play game.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it's the art style looks like it's kind of like inspired by. It's like what happens if you find the midpoint between traditional Crash Bandicoot graphics and Fortnite. So the sort of thing that it looks flashy it's the sort of thing that if a kid saw it on an advert on YouTube or something, and it was a free to play game, they're almost certainly downloading it immediately.
Yeah, it's kind of like those ads you see for mobile games, which kind of look really fun to play, but then when you actually get into them, they're just not any depth to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I love Crash, and I love that kind of family of characters, but this is just not doing anything for me at all.
I'm in the same place as you on this, where it's like I'm assuming this is going to be a fun game for someone else. This is a sort of game if we were 14 and we went round one of our houses and we could spend an evening just having a good time playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
But then back then I don't think I'd be thinking about it after I left your house.
Exactly, yeah. And the same thing as well, it's do those types of interactions still exist now in gaming? I'm not sure they do. It's
moved to online. They do happen. I mean, I've already brought up Fortnite. Fortnite's kind of the same thing, where the kids where back in the day we finished school, then we got out into the world until we got shouted at by our parents, basically. I think that kind of thing is basically moved online now. So kids are still playing games together, but rather than being sat on each other's couches, it's just online with a headset through things like Discord, which is in the description below.
But I don't feel like this doesn't particularly look fun as an online game. That's there's some games which are very average, which are fun when you sat next to somebody, but just aren't interesting online.
It almost in places looks like a third person shooter. Oh well, depending on the character, it looks like each character plays differently. Like Crash looks like he's playing Crash. Cortex has got a gun. I could see this being fun in kind of the same way as Mario Party's fun.
Yeah, but it's go play Mario Party then.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting from this. I just don't. I can't see any kind of reason to buy this. I'll even be excited about it. Even if it came to PlayStation Plus, I'm not sure about.
If it came to PlayStation Plus, I think we'd be doing a stream on it, because in the end of the day, it is a Crash Bandicoot game, which it's weird. Crash is likely to become an Xbox mascot, but
this is the world we live in.
Yeah, $69 billion for this game.
No, not just this game.
Yeah, it's just this game. This is all of the game. I don't know. I think it's clearly not for us. It's got, it's got season 1 battle. It's got your classic standard online game stuff that I just kind of roll my eyes a bit at, like battle passes and seasons, and just like, yeah, I'm not going to be invested in a game that I'm just never going to. Me personally, I'm never going to be really invested in a game that does stuff like that.
Yeah,
but it's just not for me. I hope this comes out and it's a really good game, and they like it finds its audience. But we have to remember it's still an Activision game and not exactly in good standing with the gaming world right now. Which I think sometimes we talk about Activision a lot, but we also sometimes do overlook that a bit because we're usually talking about $60 billion for a party game.
Yeah,
I'm in a weird mood today.
That's fine.
Not enough sleep and not enough coffee. Yeah. Tropico, Rob. Did you ever play Tropico?
I love Tropico.
I'm so glad because I've never played it.
It's such like a time warp game in lots of ways, like going back to early PC and stuff. God, no, I love them.
When I saw this news story, my first thoughts was, this is the most Chris-ass game ever. Like, this is like, so the story is, the developers of Tropico are releasing a theme park simulator. So Tropico meets theme park, which is why I described this as like the most Chris game ever. Because I know he loves Tropico and he loves theme park. So the game's called Park Beyond. It'll be out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S and PC on the 16th of June. It looks awesome, to be honest.
Yeah, so I used to love like the theme park sims back in the day. I could never really kind of connect with Planet Coaster, which was like a lot of people saw as like the successor for kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon and stuff, because it was a bit too in depth and a bit too finicky and stuff like that. This seems like a lot more kind of, there's a bit more charm to it. It's a bit more high level and just generally looks a bit more fun, which is why it's definitely going to be it's going to be a PC purchase for me, obviously. But
yeah, I think I would lean towards this as a PC purchase, just because I think using mouse and keyboard to build your park, and it looks like you can like drag and drop some of the placement of your roller coaster, like the second where with I mean, I've only really played I think I played Theme Park back in the day, but with Roller Coaster Tycoon I think I only really played 1 and 2, whereas like to build your coaster, which is clearly the funnest part of that game, is just designing your own crazy roller coaster. It was like, okay, you got so many blocks and click 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 and it just snaps on at the end. This seems like you can drag the sections and change the size and change the orientation. It looks a bit more freeform in that, and I think mouse and keyboard works really well for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But it'll be it's obviously not going to be a day one, because I generally don't buy kind of day one strategy games. But it's definitely going to be as soon as I have time, I'm jumping into this.
Yeah, we don't have a price for it yet, but I think I'm the same as you. It's like, I definitely want this in my Steam library. And it's a sort of game where I could see just having it installed. You know, one of the games where you just leave installed all the time and then you won't play for 6 months and you open up Steam and go, oh, I haven't played that in a while, and you spend an evening. Yeah,
it's going to be one of those.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it.
It's kind of how I handle things like Civ and things like that, where I'll just pretty much leave them installed, and then once in a while I'll go, oh, I haven't played that in a while, and jump in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks cool. So that is Tropico developers, Limbic Entertainment, making a theme park game. I don't really have much more to say, to be honest. It looks cool. I want it. Let us know the price.
Yes, please.
Well, moving on to Atari. So Atari have acquired Nightdive Studios for $10 million. Which
they have.
They have, yeah. Which is when we used to talking with like legacy like game developers like Activision, with throwing around like 69 billion. 10 million seems pocket change almost.
Yeah, well, in kind of in terms of acquisitions and companies, like 10 million is next to no money whatsoever. But we were talking before we set off recording where Atari is such a probably one of like the biggest legacy names, not just in gaming, I'd say in general. Like you'll be hard pressed to find someone who you say Atari and they don't know that Atari, like what they do.
I think a younger audience might not know Atari.
I still think they would, just based off like being cool enough to know retro shit. But the interesting thing about Atari now is that it's a really like tiny company for its kind of cultural impact. So I think most recently have kind of like between 20 to 30 employees. I think they turned over like probably about 15 million last year in terms of revenue. Like they're a very small company, and 10 million for them is a big acquisition.
Yeah, so with Nightdive Studios, who they're acquiring, they've mainly done remasters and porting work. They are releasing System Shock later this year. But other than that, it's largely they've done things like remasters and ports of things like Doom 64, Quake, Turok, Seeds of Evil stuff. So they are kind of focusing, I think as a studio, they're being focused on kind of bringing older titles to newer platforms, which feels very Atari, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. It certainly fits in well with their kind of the direction that Atari are going with. I do think it puts Nightdive in like a bit of a precarious position now. The only reason I say that is because Atari's kind of, there's a term like in companies and kind of management which is called phoenixing, where like a company goes bankrupt and then it magically phoenixes into another company which is like a separate entity, and then it just continues going. Atari have done that a few times throughout their kind of existence, especially over the past decade. So
yeah,
I don't know.
They're very much are a studio, a publisher. Well, they used to even make consoles. I think they still kind of do like legacy stuff a bit. Kind of like this things like the Nintendo Mini kind of stuff for Atari stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like they very much have kind of, I don't want to use the word fall from grace, because I don't think they've ever like done anything to kind of people go, oh my god, Atari are terrible. They just almost kind of feel like they've got left behind.
Yeah, I think Atari kicked something off a long time ago, and it's since obviously moved on. Like Atari was very much like a flash in the pan type of company, whereas like they dominated they dominated in like the genesis of gaming, and then since then they've kind of left it to go.
The video game crash back in like the late 80s, early 90s, they're kind of in that era, but unfortunately for them, they're not Nintendo and Sega.
Yeah, exactly. As a side note, I would recommend there's a podcast called How I Built This, which goes into it has like an interview with the founder of Atari, like and kind of everything they went through. That's really good to listen to. Same guy who founded Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, interesting.
So, yeah.
But but I think Atari, I think they are kind of finding. I think they're about to find the niche almost, like with the 50th anniversary collections, where they've basically remade some of their legacy titles and brought them forward to modern platforms. I think they are starting to find the niche. What is Atari going to be going forward? Where occasionally they've attempted to go into AAA. Once in a blue moon, you'd come across a game that was published by Atari in the AAA space, and then they just disappear for years and years. But I'm hoping, hopefully this acquisition of Nightdive, one, they've got 10 million to throw around, which is good. They've got the money to do this. So they're probably off the back of the 50th anniversary collection, but hopefully you might see more of that kind of stuff, looking into their legacy catalogue and bringing more games. Or creating new games in that kind of the Atari style from like the arcade cabinet sort of era.
Yeah, I think they have to stick to their identity and
Yeah.
know where the strengths are. And it seems like this acquisition is building onto that as opposed to trying to do something a bit too above their kind of power at the moment.
Yeah. But let's move on. The last few stories. I think Resident Evil 4 Remake is adding the Mercenaries DLC on April 7th, Rob. Have you ever played Mercenaries?
Yeah, I love the Mercenaries mode. I sunk a lot of time into that. I'm happy it's coming. The only difference is, compared to when I used to play Resident Evil, like Mercenaries mode, like I'm in a very different stage of my life, and I don't think I can sink the time into it, which is the eternal curse of gaming in your 30s, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the mercenary mode is a mini game where you have to survive oncoming waves of zombies. So it's just, is that what it is? Because I've never played it. It's just
essentially a hard mode, yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard mode. Just survive as long as you can.
Yeah, but the thing is, I need story now. I need story. I like an ability to craft my own story within a universe, and that's why this is going to lose out for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like this mode doesn't. It's one of them. Yeah, for me it'd be fun, but with games like this with mercenary mode, I'd always be sat there playing, unless I'm like playing on stream or hanging out with you and Chris while we play or something. If I was to sit down and play my own, like I could just. It feels like a waste of time.
Yeah, I think any score-based game now, it needs something extra to give me. It needs a social element. Or
it needs a social element, or it needs a narrative. I need to feel like I'm progressing through something. It's why I like story games, because I can play through the story. I can play through that narrative.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Where I don't it's weird because this is probably the most video game you can get, really, where it's just gameplay, really. That feels just like a time sink.
Yeah, and a bit of a time.
Yeah.
Jump back to score-based games, which have the place, but not for me.
I mean, it's free DLC, so you'll have it. It comes out the 7th of April. Do you think this could go the same way as Reverse did, where it was announced to be bundled in with Village, then more than a year later it finally drops and just did nothing?
But potentially, I mean, we both kind of forgot that release even happened, didn't we?
Yeah, I genuinely had to look up before we started recording, did it come out? Because I did had a note in the doc saying, where's Reverse? I was like, actually, I should double check.
Yeah. Bear in mind, you did a lot of Village content as well, so it's not like you were...
We played through the entire game.
Yeah. So,
it's
if
on
we
the
have
channel.
no hope, and who else does?
Yeah. But yeah, I think we'll do one more. EA are pulling multiple titles from their storefront.
EA, a couple of weeks ago, we were saying how EA were turning around in terms of kind of doing nicer things, but pulling stuff like Battlefield 9, like pulling Bad Company from the storefront, it's that's sacrilege for me.
So they're pulling Bad Company 1, 2 and Battlefield 1943. It was originally reported that they're pulling Mirror's Edge, but that's since been corrected. Why?
Yeah, I don't see the need to, because I feel like all you're doing there is annoying a super hardcore loyalist kind of section of your following for what I assume isn't much back end resource. How much resource is taken listing for people downloading Bad Company.
I kind of get it with Battlefield being a multiplayer only game, so it means keeping servers active and all that sort of stuff, and they probably want to repurpose some servers for more modern titles. But Bad Company 1 and 2 are single player games.
Yeah,
this is the thing, I just don't get why you're pulling them.
Yeah,
what is the purpose?
It talks a lot it talks louder about kind of the issue of digital only games in the future, because naturally that's where it's going, and it may happen slower than we think it is, but there'll be a point where games are like a lot of games released just on digital media, and if they get taken offline, like what happens to them? Like, do they just disappear forever? Like, do you have to go through dodgy kind of like abandonware sites to download them? Like, what's the preservation kind of argument here?
There's a lot of people actually working in like working to like preserve like video games. Like Nintendo are pretty notorious at like just with things like we've closed when they close down things like the Wii and the 3DS storefronts. It's like you kind of go, okay, fair enough, but then it's like actually all the games in there, games are art, are now just gone unless you have them. So this is kind of like it's like, again, this is my thing, is like, what is the purpose behind pulling these?
Yeah, I don't get it. And as you say, especially for games which still have playable campaigns as well.
Yeah, I know the older titles, but
yeah, because it just falls like I've done it. Like this is probably not a good place to admit it, but like I've been forced to pirate games because they're literally inaccessible to buy anymore, like legitimately. And what happens there is like I learn the latest techniques for pirating games, and then if I was of a different type of mindset, I'm like, oh well, I'll just do this for this title.
There's a lot of people actually out there who just don't seem to have like a moral issue about paying for games. I see it in like some of the Facebook pages I'm in all the time, where like people like complaining about the prices of games, or like it used to happen all the time with like Stadia, where people just sharing their Gmail accounts and stuff, and you used to say, it's like, really, with random strangers on the internet you want to share your accounts? Like, I've got this game, has anyone got this game? We can share accounts and sort of stuff. Like, I always found it quite odd, like, because I'm actually in the camp of people saying, well, games, as unfortunately expensive as they are probably undervalued for the amount of time and effort that goes in.
Like I try like to value everything by like an hour, like what's it going to cost me for an hour of entertainment?
Yeah.
And like, you know, going to the cinema, which is not a really great use of that really, compared to buying a game where, like, how many hours have you put into Hogwarts now? 60?
About, yeah. So it's about a pound. It'd be under £1 an hour, effectively.
Yeah. Like, the value you get from games is massive, and I think we like fair pay for fair work is the name of the game. And
yeah. But anyway, I just it's a weird decision. So if you are interested in Battlefield, I think you're just kind of done with. But because once that's gone, like, I'm assuming they'll be switching off the servers. It won't be playable at all. But with Bad Company 1 and 2, if you listen to this and go, I like them games, get them downloaded, because come end of April, you won't be able to.
Yeah, such a shame, because Bad Company 2, God, what a game.
Never played it.
You're missing out. Go download it quickly.
Yeah. And last thing, just to round out the show, Sonic Frontiers is getting DLC. Any views on Sonic Frontiers, Rob?
This could have been something great, and it turned into Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah.
That's all I've got on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, Sonic Frontier. I was interested in it going as a long-term like Sonic kind of fan from back in the early Sega days and stuff. Like Sonic 1, 2, and 3 and Knuckles are amazing games. Like even to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sonic Frontiers just didn't do it for me. Sonic just can't seem to pull off 3D, in my opinion.
It just can't, can it? And I think they need to stop trying.
Yeah. But they're selling enough. For me, it's weird. As someone who is more of a story gamer, I find the story that they try to do with Sonic incredibly cringeworthy, and usually just massively over the top.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean there.
Yeah, where the original games are just they're just fantastic. But that's all we have time for this week. If you've liked the show, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications switched on, so you're kept in the loop with everything that we've got going here at Helix Plays Games, such as XPass, such as our live streams, which are probably going to continue on Fridays for the time being. Keep an eye out for us posting that on YouTube. I'll try to get them up earlier than later, so you can get them saved into your watch later list, etc. My name's been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
Goodbye.